Are you ready?
Starting now?
Well, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. Objects, I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
But
You're welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies.
Right.
Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to a brand new episode of Sober, Not Mature. And first off, I want to start with today is the birthday of Alcoholics Anonymous. So
Yay.
Happy birthday. No, it's yay. Come on now. Corny as fuck, but hey, that was funny. It was funny to me. But yeah, so and I think I've been kind of promoting this over the last couple of days, but I figured that Mike, you and I probably have plenty of stories about Founders Day, but I thought that might be. I've got a bunch of other things that I had thoughts and ideas on, but figuring that today is actually the day. June 10th of 1935 was the day. So. For once, we're actually doing something on the day it happened. So why don't we, actually talk about something?
All right.
But first of all, just to go over the stats a little bit. So we are up in followers on Instagram. We're up 77 people this week. So we have 1,043 followers on Instagram.
Cool.
And then as far as individual plays on the podcast, we are up 114 plays. So we have a total of 924 plays on the podcast.
Nice.
The number one episode is episode 13, and that has 85 individual plays. Episode 3, which once again, your episode, that has 81. This is actually to me, I made the top 5. Well, my episode,
right,
made the top 5 last week, but I'm actually tied with our vodka episode. I'm pretty proud of that.
Nice.
So, I know. So yeah, me and the vodka bottle are at 70 plays. And then episode number 4, as I was writing this down, I'm like, at least we have something to mess with. Episode number 4, the first 30 days, 60.
Nice.
Yeah. So our female demographic is dropped down under 60. So that's at 56. That's been 56, 57 over the last few weeks. The male demographic is up to 39. I just took a real quick glance at the age groups. They're still about the same. Nothing has really changed as far as the age groups that are listening. Still whatever it was, 45 to 54, is still the biggest percentage. I think either just over or just under 50%, and then bits and pieces of the other ones. But one way or the other, I'm just I don't know. We're getting the other thing too, and I know I mentioned it last week, but we're getting a lot more activity and interaction. If nothing else, just people, the things we're posting and the episode clips and things like that, getting a lot more people that are either viewing them or liking them or commenting on them. So we're not only getting more people that are listening to it and following us, but actually interacting with us too, which is cool. And I saw a couple of things pop up on Facebook too. People are leaving messages on Facebook. So once again, I haven't looked at the the website traffic lately because for whatever reason, that kind of stagnated for a little bit. But I'll take a look at that at some point. But one way or the other, our website's still available. You can leave comments about every episode on the website. Also on Spotify, if you have any comments whatsoever. Suggestions or anything like that on Spotify, there's a comment section at the end of every episode. But here's a cool part today too. I got a message from an individual who has her own podcast, and she started that Started back in November, I believe she said, but it's called Cleaning Out the Closet, as the name of the podcast. And it's interesting. I listened to a couple of the episodes, so I can explain at a different point a little bit of what it's about and that sort of thing. But she wants to actually have us on her podcast. So
Really?
yeah, which I thought was cool. And I said, hey, we want to get our kind of our recording set up a little bit better, so we make sure that we can. I don't know. We haven't had more than just you and I on here, so I don't know how a third person would cut into our challenges with the technology. But one way or the other, I told her that we do the same thing, and she said she'd have us on. She's got a calendar. I can take a look at that once you and I figure it out. It doesn't have to be anything that has to happen like immediately, but she said that she'd, as she put it, promote the hell out of us, when she was going to have us on. And she's got quite a few followers, I think like 3,000 followers, and just a good group, so she seems pretty cool. And like I said, I listened to, I listened to one of the episodes. I was working at home this morning before I came up to, by the way, I'm in Appleton. I'm babysitting for my grandson again tonight. So I got a brief story on that in a minute, but but so I worked at home, and then so I was messaging her back and forth. But one way or the other, I thought it was cool. I told her that
definitely.
I talked to you, and I said, what I'm going to do. I said, I'm just going to bring it up on the recording. I said, we talk about everything on there, so I'm gonna bring it up to Mike and tell him that we want to. We're probably going to agree to do it. So I don't see why we wouldn't. But
right, definitely.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of nice. But so the grandson thing. So he's coming up on almost 3 months old. In what day is it? Oh yeah, 5 days. In 5 days he'll have 90 days.
We'll get him a chip.
Yeah, we actually should. Yeah, so 90 days clean and sober as of June 15th. So he's thriving,
Right.
But no, it was nice. My daughter and son-in-law had a wedding to go to, so they headed out about 2:30. And basically, what he does now is he eats, he sleeps, and he goes to the bathroom. So
right.
He's actually, yeah, I know. Well, I mean, you go to work somewhere
as you would.
but yeah, I mean, I had him laying around. He's got a couple of things he plays with, but I was feeding him, and I just got this nasty smell, and it was no shit, like 10 minutes after my daughter and my son-in-law left, and I'm like, seriously. So I finish feeding him. I take him in and check, and I mean, his diaper's clean. I'm like, this dude's just got some stanky gas, And then went back, and he was still hungry, so I'm feeding him some more, and then same deal. And then he was playing. Then he starts to get a little crabby, and I took him in there like right at the right time, because had I waited any longer, he's still small enough, and the diapers are big enough where, I mean, it would have got pushed up a little bit too far, and it would have been it was a mess. It was a mess in and of itself. But I'm just like, damn boy, like, you made a mess. But yeah, so not just a diaper, but I sent my daughter a text. I'm like, oh yeah, there it is, and she's like, oh yeah, he only does that once a day. Lucky you. I'm like, yeah, great. I think that's one of the promises, isn't it? You get to change a shitty diaper at some point.
All right then, yeah. Where it's page 170.
Right. Yeah, 170 whatever. It's not in the main text, but it's in there. So but yeah, it was just nice. I mean, it's I don't know, I posted some pictures on Instagram and on Facebook and stuff like that. It's once again, like you say, fucking promises, right? Which is all right. So first of all, and I think you would be better off, because you ended up at the hotel one time. Hotel, the phone booth, all that sort of thing.
Mayfair.
Yeah. So I thought, to begin with, for those that didn't even know how this all came together, I mean, do you mind take a couple of minutes and just explain that brief story of what happened, 87 years ago?
All right. Well, let's see. Let me rattle my brain cells here. Bill Wilson, Bill W., was in Akron, Ohio. He lived in New York City. He was in Akron, Ohio for some sort of business deal that failed, because, he can't do anything right. And So he's in Akron. He's by himself. I think he was under a year sober. I know that for sure. I think maybe around 6 months. I could be wrong about that. Leave a comment. Anyway, he wasn't all that long sober. And he's in Akron. He's by himself. He's not doing too well in his endeavor. And he's staying in this hotel downtown. It's right downtown Akron. And he's in the lobby, and there's a bar in the hotel. And he's looking in, and it's looking familiar. We all know that feeling. So he's got a decision to make. Go into the bar and do what he knows works, or find a drunk. And he makes a decision to find a drunk. So he goes over to the payphone and picks it up, makes a phone call to, I'm not even really sure. I think maybe a church group or something. I don't know all the perfect details to this, but I know the general. Anyway, so he makes a phone call and gets in touch with someone who knows of this doctor in town, this proctologist in town, who is fairly prominent. And like all of us, everybody knows he's a drunk. I'm sure he thought he was hiding it very well, and of course he wasn't. So they get in touch with him, and they hook him up. They said they get this meeting together, and Bob agrees. Dr. Bob Smith agrees to meet with this idiot from New York. And if I recall, Bob was going to give him about 5 minutes. His wife is encouraging him. He's been trying to take him to the Oxford group and trying to get him sober. And of course, Bob doesn't stay sober for anything. So he agrees to meet with this idiot from New York City for about 5 minutes. And they ended up spending, I believe, at least an hour, maybe several hours together on that day, on this day. And it was two drunks figuring out how to stay sober together. And that's basically how Alcoholics Anonymous started. Very innocuous. Bill needed a drunk to work with. They found one, and Bob liked what he had to say. He understood that, all those outside people, those normal people that don't understand us couldn't help him. But this other drunk could. And they started working together and started figuring out how to keep each other sober. And that's Alcoholics Anonymous, man. One drunk helping another. So how'd I do? I know I left a lot of stuff out.
No, I mean, I don't remember in the same thing who he made the phone call to. I don't recall, but that what you just said as far as the church, that sounds familiar to me because it would make sense. It was either a church or a hospital, one of the two. So,
right.
It was something like that. But I think you're right about the church and the, but yeah, that's just the basics of it. Some guys in town from some other state just happens to make a phone call and it starts this. And when you talk about, again, starting this starts with two guys, that starts with this and that, and all these different things all over the country, then the world. And I mean, millions and millions of people have been affected by it, So when you look at it that way, it's crazy, that and the thing too is the basic structure of AA has not really changed over the years. I mean, there's been some variances, some additions, some additional books and things like that. But when it comes down to it, it is what it is, and it still works. And I mean, how many times have you and I said, I have no idea why this works?
Right.
And then the other answer is, well, it just does, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it was, God, I don't remember what year it was that, because you had gone down to Founders Day before me at one point, and a lot of times you did because you would grab guys, and we can talk about that in a second. But you grab guys, I would grab different guys. Usually wait for my sister, and then I know you went with somebody to that hotel and to the phone booth, and you actually got a picture of yourself in that phone.
Yeah,
which I mean, And then the one time we thought we were going, wasn't it that we thought we were going to Dr. Bob's the one time and they took us through the historical?
Yeah, that was I think that was the first year we went down like on our own. Yeah, because down they hold Founders Day in Akron. It's at the University of Akron on the college campus. And all through the day there are vans that take guys because Dr. Bob's house, which is a historical place, is a couple miles away. So they shuttle people back and forth on these vans. And we thought we were getting on the van to go, well, we thought we were getting on a bus to go to Dr. Bob's house. And we ended up taking a tour of Akron, of all the sites that have meaning to Alcoholics Anonymous. So we went by the hospital where Sister Ignatia practiced down in Akron. If you guys don't know Sister Ignatia, she worked in a hospital down there. She was a nun, and she helped start this thing. She was one of the first people that recognized that what Bob and Bill were doing was working. So she was encouraging, and she was taking drunks and hooking them up with Bob. And so we went by the hospital. We went by the gatehouse at the Sebring Mansion. They were the Sebrings were millionaires in the rubber industry in Akron, and that was the gatehouse of their mansion is where Bob and Bill first met. I know that much. I don't even remember where else we went. Oh, we went to central office there too. I remember they took us there, which is cool. You know, there's a big stained glass something right there. You had a picture of it for a while. I think it was on your phone, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking of. I thought that was like the historical society thing for them, but that was central office then, huh? I didn't remember that part, but yeah.
Akron. Yeah, Akron central office. That I do know.
Okay, but it was funny because we get on we got on the wrong freaking bus, but and I think we ended up going to well, of course, went to Dr. Bob's house after that because that's where we got that picture.
Right.
No, so we ended up there, but yeah, I mean, all in all, I mean, it ended up. I remember it's like, oh man, we wanted to go here, but it was interesting if nothing else, I think, to go there. But so the other thing, and let's go back to that first year that we went. Well, I was taken, and I don't remember the circumstance. I know you went. What was the circumstance and how you ended up at Founders Day the first year? So, I mean, we're like I almost said a year and a half, a month and a half sober, you know, so how did you, I don't remember how you ended up there.
I kind of wanted to go. I knew about Founders Day from sort of being around a few years earlier. And I ended up just hooking up with a couple of other guys. I think one of them was in the house, and maybe his brother took us down there. And I don't know. It was just a couple of guys. It was a ride to get down there. So I went with them.
Yeah, but okay, so this is almost like when you and I went into the Keating Center. You were done. You wanted to go in there. I did not.
Right.
And so there was, do you remember, and I don't remember his last name, and I wouldn't say it anyhow if I did, but there was that one of the other, probably the 1,000 Joes that we've known, but he was kind of a big, almost bodybuilder Italian Joe. Do you remember him?
Oh yeah, Bag of Donuts.
There you go. Joey Bag of Donuts. I forgot that we called him that. Yes, that guy. So he had come in. I don't remember if he came in the same time as us or shortly after that, whatever the deal was. So you figure that I got there on April 23rd. You figured what, the 28th? Did you get into the Keating? Okay. And then, so this is June 10th, or I'm sorry, June 12th, because I still have my ticket. I posted that up on Instagram the other day too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it was June 12th. So again, I mean, it's sober wise, we weren't even 2 months sober, right. And we're sitting outside at one of the tables. And I remember Marty came walking out, and he comes walking out, and he's there. Everyone's talking about this Founders Day thing all day. Because to step back a little bit, Marty used to do that with new guys. He would either take them or get other people to take it, which other people became us later on, which is, again, part of our story coming up here. But so Marty comes out, and they're talking about this all day long, and I'm like, I don't want to fucking go anywhere. I don't want any part of any of this shit. So I was still in that, once again, I'll say, imagine that. I was still in the angry mode. So he comes out and he's looking at both of us, and I'm like, don't ask me, don't ask me, don't ask me, don't ask me, don't ask me. And he goes to Joe, he's like, you're going to Founders Day. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, thank God. So I'm sitting there, and I'm probably, I don't know, drinking coffee, smoking a cigarette. 5 minutes later, he comes walking back out, and he's like, you're going to Founders Day too. And I'm like, fuck me. I didn't want to go, So me, Joe, Marty, and Bob. It was I forget what, you remember Bob, but I don't remember what his position was there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we got into Marty's car, and we're driving down there, and I remember stopping someplace because Marty's like, if you want something to drink, he goes, we're gonna stop here at like I don't know, it was a gas station or something like that. We each got like a fountain soda, so we grabbed that, and then we pull into I know for a fact the parking garage that you and I ended up always parking in is where we parked, and we're walking over, and at that point, not only did I not want to be there, but as we start walking through like the motorcycle lot, getting closer to the stadium, and there's all these people, and I mean, people are having fun, there's music playing, there's all this different stuff, and I'm starting to get like, it felt like a party. What it reminded me of, well, it's a sober party, but it reminded me of in Milwaukee, Summerfest. I talked about that plenty of times. It's a music festival in the summer, and I used to drink my ass off there. So that's what it felt like. But we went in there, and it was uncomfortable. We went up in the stadium, and then we did the whole thing. And what blew my mind was, and I don't remember, did they do it's because it's been a few years now since we've been there, a couple years at least. Right. Do we do I knew we do the Lord's Prayer at the end, but the Serenity Prayer, was that done as a group or no? I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I think so.
Yeah. But I do remember that the Lord's Prayer at the end having, and at that year, there was like 15,000 people there, which was crazy. But on top of that, doing the whole sober count up and all these different things. And it was a beautiful night out. So we're sitting out there, and then this lead, I don't remember what they talked about. But then the thing that blew my mind was that the Lord's Prayer having 15,000 people, saying the Lord's Prayer in like unison. And I was just like, well, so, again, I didn't want to be there. I wasn't necessarily happy that I went afterwards. It was just kind of mind blowing. But then, after that, every year after that, we went down there, and then that turns into, and maybe even go into like, I don't even remember how it ever came up with us taking guys down there. Do you?
I'm sure Marty just said you're taking some guys. Because I mean that that the first year we went on our own, we were still in 3/4 house, weren't we?
Well, yeah, it would have been, you figure it would have been June of 11. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm sure he just went, yeah, you're taking guys. I'm sure that's how it happened. Right. You have cars now, you have jobs now, you got a couple bucks in your pocket. Give back, assholes.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I was just going to, as soon as you said, I think he just asked this in my head I'm like, could it be that simple? Is that what he said?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. My typical line to your typical answer. But so I couldn't remember, but the cool part about it, the first year that he said it, and I don't remember ever I don't think I was irritated by it at all. I don't think it bothered me one way or the other, but then years going forward, we actually look forward to it. And I remember, a couple of years, like the first year, which would have been, I don't know, when we were probably 5-6 years sober, when, and at that point I was back in Wisconsin, but I always came back from our anniversary like we did this year. And I always came back for Founders Day. My two favorite sobriety dates, well, actually two of my most favorite days of the year, because again, without those two things, like we talked about, I have nothing else in my life, but I remember the one year us going there, and he's like, yeah, there's no one to take down this year. And we're like, wait, what?
Right.
It was like weird, but so I posted a couple of pictures on Instagram. I did the one with James, who was your responsee, and the one that helped out our cousin. And then there was, I think, one other picture, you and I, the most recent one, and then there might have been one other one, but at least the one with James, I think I posted. So a couple of them with, us in front of the house.
Right.
And then some other one, I took one of the stadium, one like a back view, kind of where the whole smoking section was, so you could see all the people in the stadium.
Right.
I just posted all those today, and it posted a couple other things. But so yeah, I mean today normally, and I had all these memories popping up on Facebook because over the years, I mean it's this weekend. It's always between the 9 times out of 10 between the 10th and the 13th is how the weekend falls.
Right.
I think. And it's, I mean, clearly today is the day that's the actual anniversary, but they always have Founders Day on that weekend. So there's been at least 3 times in years past in the last, 11 years that I've been driving out to Cleveland, on a day like today. So, in this year it was kind of funny, and I felt like an ass after I said it because and again, yeah, I know if you're going to say it, I get it.
Uh-huh.
But so whatever it was 3-4 months ago. The wedding that they're going to today is her brother. Her brother's getting married. So her entire, obviously, that side of the family is going to be there. So
Right.
she's like, hey, do you mind, watching Ollie overnight? And because originally I was going to be here overnight because they were going to stay overnight. And then she said the date, and again she texted me. All I had to do was look, see, and then make my decision. Which would have been, of course I will. But I texted back. I'm like, wait a second. I said, I think that's Founders Day weekend, but let me get right back to you. And then I hit send. I'm like, why did I do that? Because then, I mean, well, my daughter. I mean, she's she's like Kathy and she's like Jody. I mean, they're probably 3 of the nicest human beings on the planet.
Right.
And then she's like, oh, I don't want you to miss that. I know how important it is. And then I felt terrible. But I said, but I brought up the story about what Joe had told us. The reason we get sober is to be able to do things like this, and it's okay to miss things like that. Granted, it's Founders Day is a thing we do every year, but the whole point is that I'm sober so I can be here for the things that I'm doing right this moment, right now.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, so that's why I'm not doing it this year. Last 2 years, obviously pandemic shit. But other than that, we've gone there, and so yeah, taking the guys down there was always a lot of fun. But the other thing too, the picture in front of the house every year. I think we did that. I don't know if just because you and I took a picture of that, of ourselves that first year, or whoever we had with us. I don't remember if we had guys that first year. I'm sure we did.
Yeah.
But we took a picture at that corner of the house, and I posted, again, one of those today on Instagram, and then Mike and I standing there in our shirts a couple of months ago when we were there. That's we do that picture every year, and we do it with the guys that we're with, whoever we're with that year. We take the picture, and then tell them, Mike, what we challenge them with every year.
We tell them, we said, we want you back here next year. We want you to take this picture with us next year because we're going to be here next year. You should be too.
Yeah. And how many people have showed up with us again?
Well, James, and and he didn't stay sober the whole time. I think he showed up a couple of years later after going back out. And he was the only one that we've had as a repeat customer.
Yeah, and the only other one that's been to Founders Day more than that first year, but had to leave and wasn't able to go over to Dr. Bob's house was our cousin Ryan, and he was with us the first year that he was sober because we took him down there, and then he has stayed, but he's the only one that stayed. And I mean, there's some years we had a minimum every year of 3 guys, maybe 4, maybe 6. So even average it out 4 guys over even 10 years, or 3 guys, that's 30 people that we've had sitting in that picture. And the only constant is you and I, which is, to me, part of it, I laugh. It's almost an uncomfortable laughter. It's like, damn, we've seen the one guy that was 2 years ago with the sunglasses. We just saw him at Gordon Square a couple years ago. I can't remember his name now, but then I think we've seen a couple other people that, it's like a few years later again, you see him, like James. But it's a shame, because like we've said before, that we were given, we haven't done anything special. And I know I said it before, but I'll say it again. It is much of a, and I'll just say me, as much of an egotist as I am, I know this is the one thing I'm not egotistical about ever, The only thing I mess around with is with Mike about the fact that I've got 4 days on him, and that's an inside joke. and that goes into that. But he and I, it was a funny thing that happened once, and then we carried on and joke about it, But but other than that, I mean, it's a shame, is what it is, because we've all been given the same opportunity,
Right.
and every single one of those guys came through the Keating Center just like us, different ages, different backgrounds, everything,
Right.
So it is kind of a shame. But I mean, how nice it was, obviously, a couple months ago to get that full tour. But we always go to Dr. Bob's house. We always go to the History of the Big Book, which is ridiculously cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that chick that does it now, she's been sober, what, 30 plus years, I think.
Right. Yeah. She was Bill's wife's assistant, I believe, for a while towards the end of her life. I believe that's what her connection is.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
I
know
didn't
she
even
worked
remember.
she worked with Lois in some capacity. I know that. And Lois is Bill Wilson's wife.
Right. But no, I didn't even remember that part of it. But no, she's cool, and it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and big auditorium, and it's a place where usually if it's smoking hot or something like that, we can go in there and it's air conditioned and it's comfortable, and we can rest our weary bones for a little bit while we're in there.
Right.
But so anything else that you remember? I mean, we've had so much fun. I mean, down there. Oh yeah, our sister. I think she's gone with us every year except for one, because I think she and my niece were traveling someplace.
Went to Greece.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, they were.
In my memories, a few days ago. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, other than that, so our sister is a normie. Once again, I mean, we've talked about her plenty, but she's not no issue with alcohol, anything like that. But obviously dealt with it with me and my dad, and then obviously Mike and the cousin, just all these different people she's met. So I forget when it was. Maybe it was maybe it might have been year one, or certainly year two. She always came with us, and I remember the two things with her, and God, and I can't remember was it Rebecca, the one that, because she passed last couple of years.
Yeah, my friend Becky.
Yeah. So but she was there, and I think it was it might have been that year we were waiting for that bus, come to think of it. So it might have been the first year. but she was like Rebecca was saying something about her anniversary coming up, and my sister's like, oh, my anniversary's coming up too. And she was talking about her wedding anniversary.
Right.
And then she's like, oh, when's your anniversary? She's like, oh, the 24th. And she's like, congratulations. And how many years? And she's like, oh, it's my wedding anniversary. And then the one year I told Kathy, I'm like, I was dead serious to her. I said, you have to tell people you're not sober. She's like, what do you mean? I said, you can't. You have to. I said, you can't just let them start talking to you about things. You have to identify that you're not a member of this program. Right. She's like, wait, what? And I said, yeah. I said, you're breaking tons of rules probably just by being here. I said, you got to at least say who you are. She's all freaking out, and I'm just like, I'm fucking with you. Then we used to always introduce her, and she'd get mad. I'm like, yeah, she's my sister. She's a normie. She's like, right, stop doing that. And then when we got there, I remember going there one time, and we were actually walking down to go to grab, now that we knew where to go, to get on the vans to go to Dr. Bob's. And we're walking along, and Kathy's like, and this might have been again year 3 or 4. We were sober a little bit, but not too long. And she's like, well, I've been sober for 3 days. And I said, no, you haven't. And she's like, yes, I have. I said, you have not. And she's like, I haven't had anything to drink in 3 days. And I said, then say that you haven't drank in 3 days. You're not sober. I said, right. And I'm like, and for everyone out there, I'm fucking with her, by the way, when I'm doing this, but it's crazy funny. So then I'm like, I said, Kathy, I said, being sober is a lifestyle. It's not just about not drinking. Right. And then she's like, that's not what you told me the first year we were down here. And I said, why would you listen to me then? I didn't know anything. Right. We didn't know shit. But no, I mean, our sister, she's a good shit, and extremely extremely supportive of
Mhm.
everything that we do and everyone in recovery. And but no, I just like to mess with her. But yeah, so those were those couple of things. Any other like mindful things or big things that came up in your mind about Founders Day? I mean, anything else? I thought it'd be cool to talk about it just because it, obviously
Sure.
again, it's the day. So
I mean, the coolest thing I like, and I'm missing it this year too. I have to put that out there. I'm not going to go down tomorrow. I thought about it, and again, family things. My girlfriend's son and his boyfriend are coming into town. His fiance, actually. Better get that right, because they listen. Oh, you know what? And I wanted to want to sidebar here. I've got some anecdotal statistics here too. I've been talking to some people, and apparently we've got a fairly sizable contingent of normies that listen to us.
really,
Yeah. Well, I mean, normies, and as much as they've been drunk adjacent. They've had people in their lives that have suffered from this disease. Some that are sober, some that aren't. But apparently they just like to listen to us and get some perspective on what it's like to be an alcoholic, and also to get some perspective on what it's like to be a sober alcoholic. So we've got so hi to all the normies out there listening. And it made me think of that because apparently her son and his boyfriend have listened to several episodes as well. So, and she's got people at work, and yeah, so we were talking about that the other night. So apparently there's quite a few normies out there listening to us. All right.
well, I mean, yeah. First of all, and it's fiance, not boyfriend. How many times do I have to remind you?
I don't know.
But no, I agree with you, and thank you. Anyone that's listening, and I told you, like Kathy and a couple of her friends were listening. I think that's huge. I love that, and in that you saw that comment that I posted on Instagram, and now I know who posted it. It's nobody that you would know. It's just one of our followers. But
Okay.
when I posted it up, and when she said it's like eavesdropping on two people just randomly talking about recovery, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And because I thought about that, I'm like, shit, man. Once again, we talk about, not giving a shit and winging it and doing all this stuff, which we do, but
Right.
that is the whole point, and that's what we wanted. And I'll say this again for everyone. I write down thoughts and I write down things. I had literally a list of like 7 or 8 things that just popped into my head throughout the week that I thought would be cool to talk about. And at some point we will,
Right.
but then Founders Day, and I'm like, we need to talk about that. And now we're 37 minutes into a Founders Day conversation, which we have no structure to this. It's not like every person that comes on or when we have guests, I have no desire to have a structure to it. I know you don't either.
Nope.
But that's the fun part, So I was so happy to hear that, because inadvertently we're doing what we are not necessarily trying to do, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, makes more sense for me, but yeah.
we're accidentally being informative.
It's the only way it's ever going to happen.
Yeah, and last thing on that, I had in that person that I talked to still, and again, she had said to me one time, she said you realize that you guys are every once in a while you're far more mature than your name implies.
Again, accidentally.
That's what I told her. But did you see that thing about another thing I posted on Instagram where it said, best friends are like, you can talk all this nonsensical whatever shit, and then 5 minutes later be talking about the deepest conversation. And we've done that. We were talking about the deep stuff, and then the next thing we were talking about toilets. And I'm like, how did that happen? But I sorry about for derailing that, but you are the one that derailed it first. But normies, welcome by all means, anything, and comment on that too, please. From a normie standpoint, because the one individual that gave us all the suggestions to begin with, she is a normie, and so yeah, if you guys have questions about whether it's people or friends or things, it's like when this happens. First of all, we can't tell you why somebody acts the way they act, but we can talk about a topic. If you have a thing, you don't have to say my brother's girlfriend when she does this. This isn't isn't Dear fucking Abby. You know, you don't have to do that.
Right.
But anyhow, so I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But on that note, as much as we think we're unique, we're not. Us drunks are pretty much all running on the same gear. So, I'm sure we can address the topic from our own perspective, and it's going to probably relate to their perspective. So there's that.
Yeah, I you know what? I agree wholeheartly, and I was thinking more along the lines of not being able to tell somebody what they have to do to change. But no, that's right. You explained it better, so I appreciate that. That's it again. So yeah.
Right. Okay. So back to the Founders Day before I derailed myself. The cool thing about Founders Day, and it kind of relates to that last topic, and running on the same gear. You've got 15,000 people there that are very different. Like Bill mentioned, the motorcycle parking lot. We need to explain that a little bit. The motorcycle parking lot has about at least 1,000 Harleys parked in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's a huge parking lot, and it's just motorcycles, and it goes on for it's probably a full city block square. Yeah. So you've got that contingent, but you've got everybody. There's doctors and lawyers and painters and roofers and everything. There's everybody there, but we're all drunks. And we're all junkies. And you walk in there, man, and you realize you're not alone, which is really the cool thing. That first experience, you can probably speak to it more, walking in there, not wanting to be there. You touched on it, just being in that stadium with all those 15,000 people doing the Lord's Prayer. It was like, wow, I guess I'm not by myself, and I'm certainly not unique.
Right. And before that, and I already talked about it with the meetings, the big, again, that Monday night meeting that I went to, the Keating Center one, that probably had 100 people, and I was blown away. And then we went to West Park Men on Wednesday, and that had probably 200 plus people, and I was blown away. And then, I ended up in a stadium with, literally 15,000 people, and these are from all around the world, you know? And yeah, that was the thing. And once again, like I said, I know I wasn't happy to be there, but I was. It gave me, if nothing else, looking back at it now, it gave me pause of just thinking, this is where are all these people? Where are they from?
Right.
And I knew about AA. I've been to meetings with my dad and all that stuff. I knew, I would say this, I knew enough about sobriety and AA to make myself dangerous, comparing myself. I'm not that bad yet, like I said, when I was, and understanding these outskirts. So I understand more things as I go along, thinking, shit, my dad said that. Damn it, my dad said that. I remember this from that. But yeah, there was definitely, like you said, that wow moment. So yeah, going there and not feeling alone, that's huge. And it's so much fun. It is so much fun.
Yeah.
So you were thinking about going down to the meeting, but now family stuff.
Right. Family stuff, right? Yeah, they're coming into town, and we're gonna, just hang out. My girlfriend's birthday was last weekend. Her son's birthday was like a couple of days ago, so we're gonna kind of celebrate that together. And they live up outside of Detroit. So yeah, it's a family. We, like you said, Joe told us, man, a long time ago, we got sober to be there for them, so we'll hopefully next year.
Oh yeah. I would, and that's the one thing too, that, and I'm glad that, last year and this year we were able to get together for our, at least for our anniversary.
Right.
Because that's something that, excuse me, that's something we did. And we pledged it, to begin with, to ourselves that, hey, like, especially after I moved, like every year we're getting together, for our anniversary. And we have, except for the pandemic year, we weren't allowed to.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, and Founders Day too, two years in a row they canceled it, and I
Right.
attended the online. They did the big meeting online last year. I don't think I did. The first year I did. I listened
Right.
in to the speaker, but then this came up, this year, and I'm like, okay, this is fine. But yeah, by all means, next year, mark
Yeah,
it.
definitely. 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 Yeah. And actually last year, on the weekend that, we couldn't go to Founders Day because they weren't having it. A group of us drunks got together here in Cleveland, and we played cards and ate a bunch of food, and we went to Marty and Michelle's house. So I got to spend Founders Day weekend last year with about a dozen or so drunks. It was a damn good time.
Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah, because it
Yep.
was. I mean, I hadn't seen a lot of those people in well over a year, almost a year and a half, I think, at that point, because timing wise for me to get out there, and then again, pandemic. But
Mhm.
so yeah, it was great. It was just great hanging out, and then I remember I had to cut out on cards because we had our aunt was not feeling well, so
Right.
I was over by Ryan and Carla's that night, I think. So.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we did what we could, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, that was it. That was at Marty and Michelle's house. So
Yeah.
you've heard the name. You heard the name Marty enough, and Michelle has not only been one of our friends for years, but two individuals that were part of our whole group of people, and they got married. So it's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Right.
So I do have a couple of things in outside. Well, I guess let me stop there. Anything else on Founders Day that you had on your mind, or?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I just wanted to make sure. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it. And once again, I thought it was cool that it was the day. So,
Mhm.
yeah. I was thinking about two things I was thinking about, with one thing that just came up and I had it written down, and the other thing that made me think of it as we were talking about it, but I actually had it written down too. Do you remember? So, I mean, at this time that we went to our first Founders Day, again, we just figured out and obviously talked about the fact of how new we were. And
Right.
I didn't feel like drinking when I was taken there, but it felt like a party atmosphere. I keep using the word uncomfortable. Do
Right.
you remember at all having any cravings or desires to drink when we were in the Keating Center? So within that first 90 days.
No, I didn't. I seriously didn't. To the point where I remember there was a couple of times where I would try to make myself think about drinking. Because I mean, yeah, hell, we were, literally weeks sober at that point. And I did. There was a few times where I'd try to think about, me missing it and all that. And I did miss it, because it was my best friend for a very long time. That feeling, that ease and comfort. But I never wanted it in the Keating Center. I never wanted to. I'd have left if that was the case. I know that because, well, I did it in other facilities. Yeah. So no, I didn't. I was, like I said, I've said it before, I was done. I didn't know how I was going to be done, but I knew I was done. How about you?
The surprising part is no. And
Right.
and what made me think about that was, again, and I get a lot of these ideas from this podcast that I listen to, because she has such a wide range of people that she talks
Mhm.
to, and they talk about everything. They talk about AA to sober living to all these other topics that we've touched on. But that was a lot of times they talk about cravings, and of course our lovely word triggers and all that. But
Mhm.
it was, a lot of people do in those early stages. And I don't know why I hadn't thought about it since we've been doing this, but I didn't. And thinking back on it now, I have no idea why I would not have had cravings, but I didn't.
Right. Yeah.
So, because seriously, with the mindset and the fact that I didn't want to be there, but I didn't want to be there, and I wanted to go on with my life, but I
Mhm.
don't remember saying that, because even being around, again, Mom and John or Johnny and different places, and I wasn't really around people that drank. But here's the other thing, and I've told people this before that I talked to that did not go through a sober living facility, because the Keating Center, we'll say it again, is not a rehab. It's a sober
Nope.
living facility. Huge huge difference. None of this programs and anything like that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with 28-day programs, but that's not what this was. Completely different story. And we were involved in it, even on the outskirts of it in the three-quarter house, but still involved in it for a year and a half, you know? So everything that we did, especially definitely for the first 90 days, and then until we moved into the three-quarter house, but for that initial year and a half, which is critical, I think, for anyone, we always had a safe place to go, which I think helps a lot. And that just kind of occurred to me now. Maybe that's why I didn't have cravings, because I knew I could just go home and, well, somebody was drunk up in the attic, or or had shot up and was working on the house out front. But yeah, it was a relatively safe place to be. So
it was.
But also the other thing that kind of popped in, and you had mentioned it before too, and I wrote it down. I wrote this down like 3 weeks ago and I forgot about it. Do you remember what month did you get your first coin?
I mean, you know what? This time I didn't, because I had quite a collection of 30, 60, 90-day coins. Never really got past that much. Yeah, I didn't get my first coin this time around until I got my year.
Really?
I didn't want a month coin. I didn't want a 6-month coin. I didn't want a 9-month coin. I wanted a year.
Well, but again, I guess you just explained exactly why that, and I didn't realize that, because I remember I got mine, and I think I went to, it was hugely important for me to go to Stella Maris in that first week I was there, so that I get into the Keating Center on a Friday. Basically, I considered my first day to be that Saturday, and I went to Stella Maris that next Saturday and was able, because for those that you don't know, that usually in a lot of the AA meetings, let's say anyone new, first day, first week in the program, stand up to introduce yourself, blah, blah, blah. And we were encouraged, we weren't forced to do that, we were encouraged to do that. So as I thought about it, and it was important to me, because that's where my dad got sober. So I wanted to do that. And I remember going there and thinking, because I'd never been to that meeting before, but people told me, they're like, yeah, they give out these, I don't know, these 1 week coins, whatever it is. It's these initial coins, and like almost like a starter packet, if you want to call it that way. Well, guess what? When I got there, they were fucking out of them.
Yeah.
And maybe I wasn't even mad. I was kind of bummed out about it. So then at 30 days, 60 days, I remember trying to get people, I'm like, I want to go to a meeting to get a coin, and whatever it was, whatever, because there was only certain meetings that gave out monthly coins. Most of them were a year and over, which they still are. They still are in Cleveland. But there was the one on, was it called West Clifton? Was that the name of the meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I got my 6-month coin. You know, so all the way through, I was trying to get coins, and however it was, I ended up there, and I got that was my first one at 6 months. You know, and then I don't think I got another one till my year, but the same deal. You gave me, well, we already told the story about my 1 year coin at the Keating Center. I did go to Stella Maris and got my 1 year coin there, and that's the one I have. I've got a picture of my dad with my son and my niece. And actually, I'll have to take a picture of this again. I know I did it before and put it on Instagram just as a nice picture, but once I say this, I think people will get a whole new vision of it. So I've got the coin basically on my dad's chest, and I joked about this, that I made my dad look like Flava Flav, you know. So because that's kind of what it looks like, but he's wearing a coin. But yeah, then after that, pretty much every year, you know, we get our coins from Gordon Square. Sometimes I've got one from a sponsor, and then, you know, our family gets us our coins. But yeah, I just couldn't remember. I had no recollection of anything that you did with any months like that. So it was just more of a curiosity. But the other thing that I had on my mind, and you touched on this a number of times over the last few episodes, which made me think of it. I finally wrote it down. But we were talking about the 4th step and the 5th step, and if you do those right, you don't have to do it again. If you're always doing
a 10th step. Right.
doing the proper 10 steps. So, and since you brought it up so much, and I just thought it'd be an interesting topic, because I do have some ideas on it too. But for anyone who doesn't know, because personally I think it's a life thing to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be a step in Alcoholics Anonymous, but just explain what the 10 step is and maybe how you do it. I mean, I'll do the same. I do it every day, but
Right. Well, 10 step is now you just put me on the spot, man.
I can recite what it actually says. I know what it says.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly
admitted it. Thank you.
Right.
Right. And pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, I'm going to fuck up. I'm not perfect. I am going to do wrong things. But when I do, recognize it, apologize, and don't fucking do it again. And every day, and part of doing 10 step is at the end of the day reviewing your day, seeing where you're an asshole, again recognizing it, and it's a muscle I have to work every day, because I will ignore it. I did it for decades of my life. Yes, I'm an asshole and I'm not paying attention to me being an asshole. Now I have to pay attention to me being an asshole. Promptly admit it, and don't, and take responsibility for yourself, good and bad. Again, it's a daily inventory. When you do that 4-step inventory, it's not just all the bad stuff, it's good stuff too, so you know where you stand. And it's the same with the 10 step, that daily one. Okay, I did this today. I held the door for the old lady. Cool. I didn't hold the door for some asshole that I didn't like his face. I probably shouldn't have done that. I did it, but I probably shouldn't have. So, progress, not perfection, man. But if I'm doing that on a daily basis, I'm not building shit up so I don't have to add to that 8th step list. People I did harm to, and I'm fixing it on a daily basis, so I'm not building that crap up anymore. That's my 10th step. Just to review it today, the good and bad.
And I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, and I didn't write that down. That's the one that I can recite. Basically, you could wake me up and I can recite that, because there's a word in there that I'll bring up in a minute that was a revelation to me when I was like 3.5 years sober. But so that was one of the things that, and like I said, I had it written down, but when I said I knew some things from my dad used to always talk about taking an inventory, taking a daily inventory. I had no idea what he meant by it. And then actually, even though, you're not, well, everything's suggested, but it's suggested to do the steps in order. It's certainly not frowned upon to do, a sort of 10 step right away, because you still have to be a good person and try to admit you're wrong. And you don't have to do the structured part of it, but I started doing stuff like that right away, kind of reviewing shit. And to this day, when I do my prayers at night, and I've already said, like when I always say, alcohol and drugs and, without you, my higher power type of thing, my life is unmanaged. So I always do that. And then at night I sit there and I'm like, I literally say these words every night. I'm like, okay, how was my day? Or okay, my day. And then I think, and I do that every single night. Right. And sometimes in my head, I'm like, I'm all stressed out about work. And here's the thing. And I talk to a lot of people that, when they first get sober, they can't sleep. Or when, during sobriety, they can't sleep. I couldn't sleep when I was drinking. What the hell was that?
Oh, that's a little game we play here in Cleveland. Fireworks or gunshots? It was fireworks.
I'm like, damn, did Mike just get shot?
Nah, not today.
Dude, that would suck, man. I'd have to finish this. I mean, yeah, you'd be gone, but I had to finish this on my own. I'd be like, fuck.
Right.
Man. Basically what I learned to do right away, because when I was drinking, it was like when I laid my head down, there was an immediate on switch for my brain, because I never dealt with anything, so my brain went on and I couldn't sleep. So now that's the other point of doing the 10 step. From what I was told, and the way I use it is I clear my head out at night, and then I can. that's fucking awesome. See, once again, that's great to me. I think that's wonderful. Really, it is. It just makes what we do so much more fun and real. There's some asshole lighting fireworks out while we're trying to record a podcast. That's fucking great.
I guarantee they're drinking and smoking dope.
Right. No, exactly. So I do that, and anything like that, if I'm really worked up about like work, for instance, I've usually had it rambling through my head all through the day, or it could be an individual, it could be a circumstance. And I guess I've trained myself, if you want to call it that, to say, okay, there's nothing I can do about this now. I'll worry about it tomorrow, But then the other thing is I didn't get it right away that I was supposed to look at good things. I just looked for bad things.
Right.
So now I do look at the things that I did well, or things that are going well, or progress that I'm making in certain areas. But the main thing is I look at, I'm like, oh man, same thing like you said, especially if it's somebody that is in my life or in my workspace or something like that I was a little bit of a dick to. I'm gonna own up to that if I didn't do it promptly to begin with.
Right.
And man, I don't know how many times, and it's happened with my sister, it's happened with our mom, it's happened with friends, it's happened with my son, my daughter, anyone. Some shit comes out of my mouth, and I'm like, man, I said I apologize, or it happened with a manager of mine. I got kind of, and this was when I first moved back to Wisconsin, like year 2 at this job. I got disappointed on a review, and I didn't light her up, but I kind of told her how I felt. And then I went back to the training room, and I'm typing up this thing because I was making notes on whatever. And I actually went back. I literally circled back, not the proper term. I circled back in the office, and I apologized to her. And she's like, she goes, I know you're upset. She goes, I know what you're expecting, and it didn't happen. So she goes, I truly appreciate it, but you were fine. You were, because I apologized. I thought I was disrespectful to her, and I didn't mean to do that. And then of course, then there's me, and this is me at that point at 4 or 5 years sober. Then I walked out of the office, and I'm like, well, fuck it. I didn't even have to apologize then. What the fuck's wrong with me?
Yeah, it's goddamn program, man. It fucks us all up. Makes us nice people.
But the other thing, and you just said it a minute ago, you said basically, we're going to be wrong. I missed the word when in that step for 3.5 years. I was at a meeting in Madison, and we were sitting down and we were talking about, it was a step meeting, and I'm clearly talking about the 10 step. And somebody said, they're like, yeah, one of the most important parts that, the guy was relatively new, 6 months, 8 months, whatever. He was under a year. And he said, yeah, my sponsor pointed that out to me. He goes, the word when. And I looked at it, I'm like, I've never noticed that before, because it's not even saying that we could be wrong. It's saying we will be. So when we're wrong,
right?
It's a proactive step. When you're wrong, you got to do this. It's already telling you what to do, which I thought was so great. But no, seriously, I was in Madison 3.5, maybe even 4 years sober at that point. It just clicked.
Yeah. By no means do I have this thing down yet.
Right. Yeah. But it was just it's just one of those things. Just like I've said for everything else. I mean, the sometimes slowly variety. That's pretty much what I've been. So anything else? I mean, do you do the 10 step every night? Yeah.
In some form or another. Absolutely. Yeah. I do the 10 step, and do a gratitude thing too. That's a big part of my nightly ritual. Find something, no matter how shitty my day was, and occasionally they're shitty. Find something to be grateful for, and I always find something.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's one of the main things we were talking about with the whole bad moments versus bad days.
Right.
There's when that guy, and I mean I'm be forever grateful for him for talking about it that way, because that has literally changed my life. Since that time frame, because I can sit down and be like, this doesn't have to be a bad day. And I've had some fucked up moments over the last couple of weeks, whether it be a work thing or whatever. I've had some messed up moments, you
Right.
know, but they didn't have to be bad days. And, you know, even when my moments got to the point where I'm like, you know what, the hell with this, I'm going to bed.
Mhm.
That's what I did. And then when I laid down and I'm grumbling about everything, I'm like, same thing I just said, can't fix it now. I'm going to sleep.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so that was I mean, you know, again, based on timing here, we're at an hour 4, but that one I really wanted to talk about because you brought up that 10 steps so much over the last, you know, few episodes. You know, I
Mhm.
thought it'd be important to kind of dive into that, but, yeah, so no, I think this was good. Like I said, I know I keep saying it, but I'm really glad we had a chance to not only record on this day, but to talk so
Mhm.
much about Founders Day, and then you know, again, of course, hit on a couple of the other things. But other than that, man, I think I've got a few other things, but we can push these off to the next one. I think we're going to do another episode, right?
Yeah, you know, I don't have my crystal ball handy, but I'm pretty sure we'll do another one.
Yeah, we're gonna keep coming back, right? They say.
Mhm.
All right, man. Well, once again, I always ask, but I know the answer. I'll ask anyhow. Anything else on your mind, Mike?
Not a goddamn thing.
All right, brother. Well, you know what time it is then.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. Be kind to each other. Be good. Do something good for somebody else this week. You know what? Buy a goddamn t-shirt and fuck off.
One of the Sober Not Mature t-shirts, right?
Yeah, whatever. You know, just buy a t-shirt.
Just any old t-shirt.
Yeah.
All right, man. All right, brother. I love you, and I will talk to you soon.
I love you too. Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.